All right, we do have a special guest joining us now, and I think we're going to go to a very special location as we bring in the voice of the Minnesota Vikings, Paul Allen, live from the hot tub. It looks like. How you doing, PA?
Yeah, this must be a big occasion for me to actually turn the jets off, so I could hear you. I mean, I was thinking for a second maybe Jack needs to get closer to his mic, or maybe it's this noise right here that I need to eliminate. What's going on, boys?
Not a whole lot. Got the 120-degree temperature
Hey,
water going. That looks mighty fine right there, PA. Hey,
oh, it's
we
good, man. Oh, it's good. You know what water's all about, AJ?
Yeah, no doubt, my brother. We've been talking obviously about the news tonight. Jim Harbaugh going back to the University of Michigan, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reports are that Kevin O'Connell, after the Super Bowl, will be named the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Just tell us your initial thoughts as this came out. Were you thinking Harbaugh was a done deal? Did you get a sense that it wasn't working out as the interview went long into the day? How do you feel about Kevin O'Connell?
Well, I mean, it's unless I've missed something, is the Kevin O'Connell news official?
Nothing official. Can't be
Okay, so you
official until
got
after
big
the Super Bowl.
timers saying, I mean, you're going to get. I saw Chad Graff's tweet before I jumped in here. So I mean, you're going to get respected locals like Graff, Krasinski, and so on. Courtney, Gessling, all the names. Okay, nobody's to be offended. Everybody's a respected local. But then you're going to get Pelissero, Schefter, guys like that. They're going to be checking in and offering up, what they know from what happened today and what's going to be next. So if Kevin O'Connell, the Rams offensive coordinator, were to become the next Vikings head coach, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And really, for those who listen to 9 to Noon, and I'm going to go through this whole thing tomorrow again, but really the only way for me to address it or handle it is just to pretty much regurgitate or share what we've talked about this week, where I just found it very, very interesting and kind of crazy that the NFC title game was Sunday. And in that game between the Niners and the Rams, you have at least three coaches who either want the Vikings job or the Vikings want them. So everybody agrees with that, right?
Yep.
All right. So now all of a sudden, Saturday night, a Zoom with Jim Harbaugh pops up on a Saturday night, the night before the game. And, of course, it leaks because that's just how it works. And everybody goes to Twitter. But maybe, with the timing of when that came out, by that time, O'Connell, Morris, Ryans, McDaniel, whomever, well, they all were done with their meetings and everything, and they're settled in for the game the next day. So that's the timing of that is a little too perfect for me. Who knows how Saturday schedules work before games? Fellowship, Catholic Mass, 7:30. Chill out for a little bit. Then the meeting's at 8. Team meeting with the coach talking around 9. Everybody does it that way. And that's about when the whole thing broke. It was early evening or whatever. So I found that to be curious, the timing of it. And then, our leadership team or the hiring team flies to Southern California. Now, they're not going there unless they want somebody. So they go there, and that's interview number 2 with O'Connell. Raheem Morris, too, maybe. I'm not sure. But then, conspicuously, D'Amico Ryan says, "No, I'm good. I want to be a head coach, and I think I can be a head coach. And you interviewed me once. I'm going to go ahead and turn down the second interview." All right. So he knew where some bones were buried. And he's
Right.
like, yeah, I know it's probably going to be one or one of two guys. So I'm out. And again, I'm speculating and just riding my heart right now. So that happens. Then they come back here, and I have no idea what transpired with the offensive or defensive coordinators with the Rams. But whatever it was, it did not turn the local team away from having the big meeting today with Jim. Because when you do that Saturday night bit, whether it was super previously planned or not, that gives Jim an opportunity to win the job.
Right.
And I fully, firmly, wholeheartedly would wager everything, every dollar I have. Jim Harbaugh wanted this job. And Jim Harbaugh left the facility, or at least an hour before he left the facility, and he didn't know that this was not going to be his job. Okay, and then now he's going to go back to Michigan. How that worked out, I don't know, so I'm not going to guess. But now, so to move on to Kevin O'Connell, I felt with the conspicuous timing of the Saturday night chat with Harbaugh that leverage was potentially being laid down one way or the other. Jim either wants to bump that 4 at Michigan. Now, at Michigan is precarious because they fired their university president 2.5 weeks ago for insubordination with a coworker, handing the cookie jar terrorism. He's out. So now you got Mary Sue Coleman, maybe. So she's the interim. She's not Tennessee. She's the interim president at the University of Michigan. So now I start reading into that a little bit, thinking, maybe Jim, off that season he beat Ohio State and got things going good there, maybe he wants to bump that 4. And he just is not sure where the leadership of the university is right now in transition. So I put that into the equation. But at the end of the entire thing, if the Minnesota Vikings either wanted Kevin O'Connell to know that if you want to wait or waffle or be like, I love living in California, Sean's great to work for, and we're good, and we might win the Super Bowl, and we're going to be good next year. And he was like, all right, I'll do it. 5 years, 40 million, and just some absurd just number and years. Then maybe next level Kwesi, maybe he's like, cool. I got 2 years in with Jim. Everybody knows it. And it was 2 years at San Francisco where it might not have been great for Jim. Everybody knows that. So we're going to do it again. And we want somebody to know that we are very serious about making a good hire. We will pay what it takes to get this team to the Super Bowl. So are you in or out? And I would bet Kevin O'Connell will be the next head coach here, off the way just everything has laid itself out. So from the serenity of my hot tub, I didn't come in here to hijack the State of the Purple podcast, but you asked, and honestly, boys, and I'll talk to you as long as you want. That's the only way for me to answer your question, is to go back to D'Amico Ryan saying no, Saturday Night Weird, YouTube, Zoom all of a sudden,
right?
And just where we are now, man. So, man, this is just crazy,
Yeah, it's nuts, man. You got coaches on the way out causing drama, coaches on the way in causing drama. One more quick question for you, P, and then we'll let you go.
We can do more than one, man, because now I'm settled in.
Well, hey, whatever you got, we do appreciate it. Assuming that Kevin O'Connell is the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, it does mark a little bit of a change with the vibe around, Kwesi obviously brought some change already from Rick Spielman. It brings in a different mindset, an offensive coach. It brings in a younger coach. It brings in a younger leadership group. Quick twitch, is there anything that you see, like, is there giant changes coming right away for the 2022 season that would come with that sort of a shift?
Define changes. You mean like completely new staff?
You could talk. Well, the staff will be relatively new to some extent. Do you see giant personnel changes? Do you think that the schemes are going to be night and day
first
different?
And foremost, with the new GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and this is my opinion. I mean, it's not like, hey, you better do this. I gotta, I know I'm trying to hire a coach, but I got to figure out first and foremost what I got in Kellen Mond. Okay, and I know I got Kirk under contract, and I know Kirk is good. And I know Kirk has his limitations, but I know he's very, very, very good. And in the rare opportunities he's been given to beat somebody in the last second of a big game, New Orleans, the anti-Vike, Sean Payton, he did. Now, that next game against San Francisco, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, they weren't beating the Niners that day the way they were running the ball. Well, then Mahomes beat him in the Super Bowl, but you get my point there. The Chiefs were better than the Vikings that year for sure. So with Kwesi, I mean, I got to, there were a lot of negative opinions, as you could tell, with Zimmer after the Packers game, and how he handled that whole Kellen Mond related press conference. So there are a fair amount of times that I heard during the course of the year, Kellen can't play, and my heartfelt, honest, black and white response was, well, I mean, okay, I mean, if we can really draw that conclusion off watching somebody on the scout team, 1,000 times more about it than me. So whatever, by faith, I believe you, but that doesn't mean it has to be completely right. So while he's doing that, and the new head coach obviously is going to want to say in that to figure out what he has there. You start there, and from there, I just wonder who's going to be around the new GM. because, this is not, and by admission, an all 22 stand on the field during practice and take notes and break it down. That's I don't think that's him. But that is needed. And whether it's people he has around him now, and there are a lot of spectacular people, Ryan Munnins, Burkhart, along with Jamal Stevenson and Rob Brzezinski, and so on and so on and so on. So that where you go from there answers your question about personnel, because the head I want, if Kevin O'Connell's going to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, bravo, because I want the McVay tree. And, I'm old school, man. So when somebody says, hey, the 2020 wide receiver draft is the best in the history of the NFL. Okay, cool. I don't watch college football, so I got to see it. Well, I've seen it, and they were right. This McVay and the way he does it, and he sits on the cooler and doesn't even watch Wade Phillips and the whole thing. Great, cool. Went to the Super Bowl, cool. But you just need to see it over time. And I've seen it with Matt LaFleur and the way he operates things for the most part. Staley, I think did a fine job with the LA Chargers his very first year. And lo and behold, Zach Taylor was an offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bearcats 5 years ago. He has 19 wins and 32 losses, and he's in the Super Bowl. And he's from I want that McVay tree. My intel on O'Connell from somebody who knows him very well and has worked with him somewhere in the past. Absolute born leader from a communication standpoint, and also very into collaborative efforts where it doesn't have to be his way or the highway. Now, for the 2022 Vikings, from a personnel standpoint, I'm not going to guess that, honestly, because I don't know how the money magician Rob Brzezinski can work that whole thing out. Who wants to lose Daniil if he's healthy? Who wants to lose Barr if he's healthy? Who wants to lose Peterson? Patrick. I don't want to lose those guys. And Irv's coming back, but I don't want to lose Tyler Conklin, but you can't keep them all. Right. So it's too hard for me to answer that. But what is certain is the Minnesota Vikings offense and defense will be different than what we've seen ever since Gary Kubiak was amplifier coordinator with Stefanski by his side. And then it's Stefanski, and then he's a coach, and then it's Gary, and then it's Clint. It's going to be different. And that is going to require a new level of memorization and a new level of commitment and repetitions. And, you may have to wait a little bit for it to be good. But I've heard nothing but great things about Kevin O'Connell. He was my favorite person to be the next coach every step of the way. The Harbaugh stuff jumped up, threw me off like it did a lot of other people. But if the Vikings hire Kevin O'Connell, bravo.
PA, I have a question for you. You don't have to necessarily speculate on this.
Let me wipe my phone.
But AJ and I were talking a little bit about this, about the state of the quarterback position moving forward. And you mentioned something that just kind of clicked in my head. Again, we already talked about this earlier, but you mentioned this on 9 to Noon today, talking about how there were trade conversations with the LA Rams and Jared Goff for Kirk Cousins. Kind of interested to get your thought on that now that – I'll put air quotes around it, that now that there's a chance Kevin O'Connell is coming to Minnesota, do you think that means Kirk Cousins is likely the guy for Kevin O'Connell? What have you – I kind of want to get your thoughts about Kellen Mond a little bit too. But.
It's an excellent question. You're very observant with the way you've listened to 9 to Noon, because I'm, as AJ knows, inside now. But as most people know, I'm not going to be the guy to jump on Twitter and say breaking. I just caught this nugget. The Vikings might have done this with the Rams. But, I felt it was time to slide it in a little bit in the context of the conversation, simply because it involves somebody with the Rams. Cousins is on this team, and Stafford is in the Super Bowl. So what I shared was, I've known for a little while, and I would bet that it's accurate, even though I've never asked Kirk or Matthew Stafford or McVay or O'Connell or anything. But last offseason, when the Rams were looking to move Jared Goff, they ended up obviously with Matthew Stafford, but they may have inquired about Cousins, and they may have made a decision of the two, or maybe whomever else is involved, they wanted Matthew. Now, Kevin O'Connell, the offensive coordinator, if that indeed is happening, he knows every single thing that's happening. And, Kevin was with Kirk in 2017 in Washington. As I've shared 9 to Noon, just because he was with him there doesn't mean he's infatuated with the whole situation. So, I mean, Kirk's good. Okay. And I'm not one that really is going to sit here in the details, man. And just, it comes down to big moments and how you handle them. And Kirk has not had many in the postseason, but in that Saints game, he came through when the anti-Vike put Patrick Robinson on Adam Thielen and the anti-Vike had to pay. But if you think about the games this year, and I quote tweeted somebody earlier in the day who tweeted like, Kirk Cousins either outplayed or played with these 6 quarterbacks during the year. And 3 of them were losses. And then I quote tweeted from my Twitter that it just triggered my memory to how good Kirk was at the end of the Carolina game, the Arizona game with KJ, the second half of the Cincinnati game. He beat Rodgers and he beat Green Bay and Pittsburgh. I mean, just how good he was for the most part. Seattle got snoozy and there were some other problems. The Browns game too. But Kirk was cold-blooded as bleep in most of those games when the pressure was at its highest. So that's there too. And Kevin knows that. Kirk will be the quarterback for the team next year. I can't see how they trade him, honestly. So he'll be the quarterback. The rest of the personnel, that's up for debate.
All right, PA, we'll let you turn the bubbles back on and enjoy the hot tub.
Why, man? I'm having a good time. Hopefully I didn't wreck your
No, are you kidding me?
No, we appreciate it, PA.
No, you added a lot to it, some different opinions and a different style too. We're both wearing shirts, so we were just missing.
Yeah, hopefully this was copacetic.
Yeah,
getting in here with the relaxation, but all this Harbaugh stuff, it worked on my last nerve in my right rhomboid, and I'm gonna come into 9 to noon tomorrow, super fresh and ready to fire.
There you go. Thank you, PA. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. That was pretty cool. Always love that guy and love his opinions. Obviously, he knows a heck of a lot more about all this stuff than we do. Some of it is, stuff he's hearing around the facility and with text messages, and some of it is just intelligence and knowledge that he brings to the table. So very much appreciate PA joining the fold. You can hear more from him. He's going to think about it all night. That's him. He doesn't go to sleep. He'll think about this situation all night and come 9 to noon tomorrow with some really good heat and some probably some more intel and a bunch of interviews too. That Rolodex that he has and the conversation ability he has is great. Jack, we've gone almost 45 minutes. We were going to go 20 and talk about this, and then PA joined, and we couldn't stop him from sharing his little tidbits there. So we'll wrap it up here for the night. Again, Jim Harbaugh back to the University of Michigan. Kevin O'Connell, soon to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, according to reports. Can't happen until after the Super Bowl, but once we get to that point, it'll be all said and done, unless something crazy happens, and we can't rule that out based off of the way that this coaching hunt and the postseason or offseason, has gone for the Minnesota Vikings so far. If you're new to the State of Purple podcast, this is the KFAN weekly Minnesota Vikings podcast. This week it's been daily. We've had an episode every single day. You can find it on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We'd love for you to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Jack Day joins in. He writes for KFAN.com. He also joins in on the State of Purple podcast and shares his insight. We're going to get into college scouting. That's Jack's forte, something he's really interested in. He's paying attention to the Senior Bowl right now. He's paying attention to the draft class and stocks for all those players. So if you want to follow him on Twitter, it's Jack_H_Day, and you can get all his insight there. You can hit me on Twitter at AJKFAN and join in on these interactive chats every week at the minimum, sometimes more than once a week for the State of Purple. So it's late. I am hungry. I need to gather myself and get ready for another day because, Jack, as a Minnesota Vikings fan and somebody who covers this team, who the heck knows what's going to happen tomorrow because it could just continue to get more and more weird. So, Jack, I appreciate the time tonight. Appreciate PA joining. Catch him 9 to noon on KFAN tomorrow. And check out KFAN.com as we continue to have everything covered with this crazy coaching search for the Minnesota Vikings. For Jack Day, I'm AJ Mansour. This has been the State of Purple podcast. See you later.
10 seconds to go. We need a Minneapolis miracle. Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Off by Diggs. Stay up. Oh,